The broken ship floated in the darkness of space. Its metal hull had holes burned through it. Purple blood floated in frozen drops outside the ship. Inside, Ambassador Velthar pressed his 3 fingers against the message machine. His blue skin was pale. His large black eyes showed fear. The message went out into space again. It was the same message he had sent 100 times before. This is the Korthani people. We need help. Please, anyone who hears this, we need help. The Devourers are killing us all. Velthar looked at the screen in front of him. It showed his home planet, Korthani Prime. The planet used to be green and blue. Now it burned with orange fire. Black ships shaped like insects covered the sky above the planet. Those were the Devourer ships. They were eating his world. The door behind him opened. His helper, a young Korthani named Ziptar, came in. The young alien's arms shook. Ambassador, we have lost contact with the 3rd colony. They are gone. Velthar closed his eyes. That was 5 billion more of his people dead. The Korthani were a peaceful race. They had never fought a war. They grew food and made art. They traded with other races. They had no weapons that could fight the Devourers. Send the message again, Velthar said. Someone must hear us. Far away on a human warship called the Retribution, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge. He was a tall man with short brown hair and green eyes. His uniform was dark blue with silver stars on the shoulders. He had been captain for 5 years. In those years, he had fought pirates and protected trade routes. But today felt different. Captain, we're getting a message, said Commander Lisa Chen. She was his second in command. Lisa was short but strong with black hair tied back. She knew 12 alien languages. It's a distress signal, sir. From the Korthani. Jake walked to her station. Put it on the main screen. The scared face of Ambassador Velthar appeared. His voice shook as he spoke. The computer translated his words into English. Jake listened to the whole message. Then he listened to it again. How many times has this message been sent? Jake asked. 103 times, Captain, Lisa said. No one has answered. Jake's hands made fists. Show me what's happening in Korthani space. The screen changed. It showed a map of space. The Korthani territory was marked in blue, but most of it was now red. The red meant the Devourers had taken it. How many Korthani colonies have fallen? Jake asked. 17 out of 20, sir, Lisa said. Only 3 are left. The Devourers will reach them in 6 days. Jake turned to his crew. 20 men and women sat at their stations. They all watched him. Contact Admiral Frank Rodriguez. Tell him we need to talk now. The screen changed again. Admiral Rodriguez appeared. He was an older man with gray hair and hard brown eyes. Behind him was the command center of Terra Station, humanity's biggest space station. Jake, I've seen the Korthani message. Frank said. The Galactic Council has decided not to help. What? Jake could not believe it. They're just going to let them die. The Council says the Korthani are too far away. They say it's not worth the risk. They've written them off. Jake hit the table with his hand. That's not right, Admiral. The Korthani are good people. They've traded with us for 30 years. They gave us food when our colonies were starving. Frank nodded slowly. I know, Jake. That's why I'm calling a war meeting. Can you get here in 3 hours? Yes, sir. The screen went dark. Jake turned to his crew. You all heard that. The Galactic Council is going to let billions die. What do you think about that? It's wrong, Captain, said Lieutenant Sam Torres from Weapons Control. He was young but good at his job. The Korthani helped us. We should help them. The others nodded and spoke their agreement. Humans were like that. They remembered who helped them, and they protected their friends. Lisa set course for Terra Station, Jake ordered. Maximum speed. The ship turned and jumped into hyperspace. Stars turned into lines of light. Jake went to his ready room. He pulled up everything they knew about the Devourers. The Devourers were a nightmare. They were not one creature, but billions working with one mind. They flew in living ships made of meat and bone. These bioships could heal themselves. When the Devourers found a planet with life, they ate everything. They turned all living things into more Devourers. In 200 years, they had eaten 50 races. No one had ever beaten them. The best anyone could do was run away. But humans didn't run. Humans came from Earth, a death world. Everything on Earth tried to kill you. The gravity was heavy. The weather was violent. The animals were deadly. The oceans were full of monsters. Even the plants could kill you, but humans didn't just survive on Earth. They became the top predator. They spread across their world. They went to space. They colonized 100 worlds. The other races feared humans because humans were dangerous. But humans only fought when they had to. Now they had to. 3 hours later, Jake stood in the war room of Terra Station. 50 other captains were there. Admiral Rodriguez stood at the front. A huge hologram showed Corthani space. "Ladies and gentlemen," Frank said, "the Corthani have asked for help. The Council has abandoned them, but I say we help them anyway." Captain Amy Watson raised her hand. She commanded the battlecruiser Vengeance. "Admiral, the Devourers outnumber us badly. They have 5,000 ships. We have 200. I know the odds," Frank said, "but we have advantages. Our ships are metal, not meat. Our weapons are made to kill, and we have something the Devourers have never faced." "What's that?" asked Captain Danny White. "Human anger," Frank said. "Dr. Paul Harrison, tell them about your project." A thin man with glasses stood up. Paul Harrison was the smartest weapons scientist humanity had. "We've been working on nanite weapons. Tiny robots that eat organic material. We can turn the Devourers' advantage against them." The room got quiet. Nanite weapons were dangerous. They could eat a whole planet if not controlled. "Can you control them?" Jake asked. "Yes," Paul said. "They have a kill switch. After 24 hours, they shut down." Frank spoke again. "We also have another advantage. We can jump our whole fleet at once." Everyone started talking. That was crazy. Jumping one ship through hyperspace was hard. Jumping 200 at once could kill them all. "It's been tested," Frank said loudly. "We can do it. We jump in, hit them hard, and save the Corthani." Captain Kate Murphy stood up. She was older, with red hair and scars on her face. "When do we leave?" 6 hours, Frank said. "Get your ships ready. Load the nanite weapons. Prepare your crews. We're going to show the galaxy what humans do when innocent people cry for help." The captains left to prepare. Jake walked with Lisa back to their ship. "This is going to be bad," Lisa said. "Yes," Jake agreed. "But it's right." They reached the Retribution. The crew was already preparing. Weapons were loaded. Engines were checked. Shields were powered up. In the medical bay, Dr. Helen Moore prepared for wounded. In engineering, Chief Bob Jackson checked every system twice. Jake stood on the bridge and opened a channel to all human space. "This is Captain Morrison. The human fleet is going to save the Corthani. If you want to know why, it's simple. They asked for help. And humans don't abandon friends," the message went out. On Earth, on Mars, on every human colony, people heard it. They understood. This was what made humans different. They protected the weak. They fought for others. They remembered kindness and repaid it. 6 hours later, 200 human warships gathered at Terra Station. They were every class and size. Dreadnoughts with huge guns. Carriers full of fighters. Destroyers built for speed. Cruisers made for long battles. Even old mining ships with weapons bolted on. Every human who could fight had come. Admiral Rodriguez sent one message to the Galactic Council. "Humanity is going to save the Corthani. Anyone who tries to stop us will be destroyed." Then he gave the order. "All ships prepare for mass jump. We're going to war." Admiral Frank Rodriguez stood in the center of Terra Station's command center. Around him, hundreds of screens showed the gathered human fleet. 200 ships floated in perfect formation. Each ship was a weapon, built by humans who knew how to kill and how to survive. The Admiral's assistant, Commander Eric Johnson, walked up to him. Eric was a tall black man with a deep voice. He had fought in 12 battles and never lost. "Admiral, all ships report ready. But sir, some of the captains are worried about the mass jump." Frank turned to face him. "They should be worried. We're about to do something that breaks every rule of space travel. But Eric, tell me something. What would happen if we took the safe route?" "If we traveled to Corthani space the normal way, it would take us 9 days, sir. And the Corthani have 6 days left. So we jump or they die." Eric nodded. He understood. Frank walked to the main communication panel and opened a channel to all ships. Every captain, every crew member could hear him. "Men and women of the human fleet," Frank began. 4 hours ago, we decided to save the Corthani. The Galactic Council thinks we're crazy. They think we're too violent, too dangerous. Today, we prove them right. We are dangerous, but we're dangerous to those who hurt innocent people." He paused and looked at the fleet through the windows. "Each of you volunteered for this. No one was forced. You came because it's right. The Corthani grow food. They make music. They have children who play and laugh. And right now, those children are screaming as the Devourers eat their worlds." On the Retribution, Jake Morrison listened to the Admiral's words. His crew stood straighter. Their eyes got harder. Frank continued. The jump we're about to make could kill us all. Our ships might break apart. We might come out of hyperspace inside a star. But if we don't try, billions of innocent people will die. So I ask you, what do humans do when the innocent need help? We fight! The answer came from 200 ships at once. 30,000 human voices shouted as one. Prepare for jump, Frank ordered. Dr. Harrison, are the nanite weapons ready? Paul Harrison sat at a special control station. Around him were 20 scientists. They all wore white coats over their uniforms. Yes, Admiral. Each ship has 50 nanite missiles. Once they hit a bioship, the nanites will eat it from inside. The devourers will die by being devoured. Good. Captain Murphy, is your strike team ready? Kate Murphy appeared on screen. Behind her, 50 fighter pilots sat in their cockpits. Ready, Admiral. My boys and girls are hungry for a fight. Frank looked at the jump calculations one more time. The computer said there was a 40% chance of success. 60% chance that some or all ships would be destroyed. Those were bad odds. But humans had beaten bad odds before. All ships, slave your jump drives to the Prometheus, Frank ordered. The Prometheus was the newest human ship. It had the best navigation computer. We jump in 30 seconds. On every ship, crew members strapped themselves in. They said prayers to whatever they believed in. Some thought of home. Some thought of the Korthani children they were going to save. 10 seconds, Frank said. Jake Morrison gripped his command chair. Beside him, Lisa Chen was running final checks. All systems green, Captain. 5 seconds. In engineering, Bob Jackson and his team held their breath. 3, 2, 1. Jump, space door open. 200 ships disappeared from Terra Station at the same moment. They entered hyperspace as one unit. The energy needed was enormous. Several smaller ships shook violently. On the destroyer Hope, panels exploded. On the frigate Lightning, the lights went out, but the fleet held together. They moved through hyperspace like a spear thrown by an angry god. The journey that should have taken 9 days took 9 minutes. Meanwhile, in Korthani space, the Devourers continued their feast. The Overmind, the giant brain that controlled all Devourers, floated in its moon-sized bioship. It had no name, only hunger. It had eaten so many races that it no longer counted them. Around it, 5,000 bioships attacked the last Korthani worlds. Each ship was alive, made of flesh that could think and react. They shot acid that melted metal. They launched spores that infected planets. They were perfect killing machines. On Korthani Prime, the last billion survivors hid in underground bunkers. They watched screens that showed the death of their world. Parents held children. Old people prayed. Soldiers with no weapons stood guard over nothing. Ambassador Velthar was there too. He had made it home just before the attack. Now he stood with his people as they died. His daughter, a small Korthani child named Melvar, held his hand. Father, is anyone coming to help? She asked. Velthar wanted to lie. He wanted to tell her yes. But he couldn't. I don't know, my child. I sent messages, but no one answered. Above them, the ground shook. The Devourers were bombing the surface. Soon they would dig down to the bunkers. Then it would be over. Suddenly, every screen in the bunker flashed white. Then they showed something impossible. Space above Korthani Prime was ripping open. Not one rip, but 200. Ships came through. Metal ships with guns. Human ships. The human fleet arrived in perfect formation. They came out of hyperspace like they had practiced it 1,000 times. 1 second, the Devourers were alone. The next second, they faced 200 angry human warships. On the Retribution, Jake Morrison didn't wait for orders. All weapons, fire. Kill them all. The human fleet opened fire at the same moment. Railguns shot metal rods at half the speed of light. Laser beams cut through bioships. Missiles full of nanites hit their targets and began eating. The Devourers were surprised. They had never been surprised before. The Overmind sent out a psychic scream of confusion. How did these metal ships arrive so fast? How did they jump so many at once? But the Devourers recovered quickly. 5,000 bioships turned to face 200 human ships. They shot acid and spores. They tried to board the human ships with tentacles. The acid hit human shields and was stopped. The spores couldn't infect metal. The tentacles were cut off by point defense weapons. Captain Amy Watson led her battlecruiser into the thick of the enemy. Come on, you ugly bastards. Let's see what you've got. Her ship's main gun fired. It was a weapon designed to crack asteroids. It hit a large bioship and blew it into 1,000,000 pieces. Captain Danny White and his bombers flew between the bioships, dropping nanite bombs. Each bomb that hit started eating. The bioships tried to heal, but the nanites ate faster than they could regenerate. On the science ship Darwin, Paul Harrison watched his nanites work. It's working. They can't adapt fast enough. Increase production rate by 50%. The battle was chaos. Ships exploded. Crews died. But for every human ship lost, 50 bioships were destroyed. The humans fought with a fury the devourers had never seen. These were not scared prey. These were predators, and they were angry. Captain Kate Murphy's fighter squadron attacked the largest bioships. They flew so close they could see the flesh walls of the enemy ships. They launched torpedoes directly into weak spots. When one fighter was caught by a tentacle, the pilot set off his self-destruct, taking 3 bioships with him. For humanity, the pilot shouted before he died. The Overmind watched its children die. It had lived for 10,000 years. It had eaten civilizations that were old when humanity was young. But it had never faced anything like this. These humans didn't just fight to win, they fought to destroy completely. Frank Rodriguez stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Warrior. He watched the battle with cold eyes. Order all ships to concentrate fire on the large bioships. Don't let any escape, Sir, Eric Johnson said. We're winning, but we're taking losses. 18 ships destroyed so far. Those are heroes dying out there, Frank said. Make sure their sacrifice counts. Launch the second wave of nanites. The human fleet had been holding back half their nanite weapons. Now they launched them all. 5,000 missiles flew into the Devourer fleet. Each missile that hit started a new infection. Bioships began eating each other as the nanites spread from ship to ship. Down on Corthani Prime, the people in the bunkers watched in shock. The humans were winning. They were actually winning. Children stopped crying. Adults started to hope. Velthar could not believe his eyes. They came. The humans actually came. His daughter pulled on his hand. Father, are those the Deathworlders? The ones everyone fears. Yes, Velthar said. But today they're our saviors. The battle above Corthani Prime had been going for 6 hours. The space between the planet and its moon was full of debris. Pieces of bioships floated everywhere. Some were still alive, twitching and trying to reform. Human fighters flew between them, making sure they stayed dead. Captain Jake Morrison stood on his bridge watching the tactical display. Half the Devourer fleet was gone. But the humans had paid a price. 29 ships destroyed, 8,000 humans dead. Their names would be remembered, but right now there was no time to mourn. Captain, Lisa Chen called out, I'm detecting a massive energy signature. Something big is coming. Jake looked at the screen. A hole in space was opening. It was 10 times bigger than any jump portal he had ever seen. Something huge was coming through. All ships, defensive positions, Jake ordered. What came through the portal made everyone stop and stare. It was a bioship the size of Earth's moon. Its surface was covered in eyes, each one as big as a city. Tentacles that could wrap around a battleship waved in space. This was the Overmind's true body. The psychic scream it released made every human grab their head in pain. It was not just sound. It was pure hatred pushed directly into their minds. Weaker races would have gone insane. But humans had evolved on a death world. Their minds were strong. Shake it off. Jake shouted to his crew. It's just noise, focus. Admiral Frank Rodriguez felt the psychic attack too. But he had trained for this. Humans had found other psychic races before. They had learned to resist. All ships activate psychic shields. Dr. Harrison, can the nanites work on that thing? Paul Harrison was bleeding from his nose from the psychic attack, but he stayed at his station. Sir, that thing is too big. The nanites would take weeks to eat through it. Then we do this the human way, Frank said, with bigger guns. Captain Taylor, is the Judgment Day ready? Captain Grace Taylor appeared on the screen. She was a small woman with blonde hair, but her eyes were hard as steel. Admiral, the singularity weapon needs 20 minutes to charge. Can you give me 20 minutes? Frank looked at the tactical display. The Overmind was moving toward Corthani Prime. Its tentacles reached out toward the human fleet. Each tentacle was 5 miles thick. You'll get your 20 minutes. All ships protect the Judgment Day. The human fleet moved like a single organism. They formed a wall between the Overmind and the Judgment Day. The smaller ships moved in front. The bigger ships stayed back and fired their long-range weapons. The Overmind attacked with fury. Its tentacles smashed into human ships. The destroyer Courage was grabbed and crushed like a can. The frigate Thunder was pulled into the Overmind's mouth and eaten. But for every ship it destroyed, 10 more took its place. Captain Amy Watson brought her battlecruiser in close. "Hit it with everything. Don't let it reach the planet." Her ship's guns fired without stopping. Explosions covered the Overmind's skin, but it healed almost instantly. The creature had eaten the life force of 1,000,000 worlds. It was almost impossible to kill. On Corthani Prime, the survivors watched the battle. They saw human ships dying to protect them. They saw crews of hundreds sacrificing themselves to buy seconds of time. Ambassador Velthar turned to his people. "Do you see? The humans are dying for us. They don't even know us, but they're dying to save us." A young Corthani soldier spoke up. "Why? Why would they do this?" "Because," Velthar said, "that's what humans do. They protect the weak, even when it costs them everything." Back in space, Captain Danny White led his bomber squadron on a suicide run. They flew directly at the Overmind's eyes. "Boys and girls, this is going to hurt. But if we can blind it, maybe our fleet has a chance." 50 bombers flew into the Overmind's defense zone. Acid sprayed at them. Smaller biofighters tried to stop them. 30 bombers were destroyed in seconds, but 20 made it through. For humanity and the Corthani, Danny shouted as he launched all his missiles into a giant eye. The explosion was huge. The Overmind's eye exploded in a shower of purple blood. The creature's scream got louder. It was hurt. It was actually hurt, but Danny's bomber was caught by a tentacle. He had 1 second to make a choice. He made it. "Tell my wife I love her," he said over the radio. Then he set his reactor to overload. The explosion took out another eye and burned a hole in the tentacle. Danny White died as he lived fighting. Captain Kate Murphy saw Danny die. She had known him for 10 years. "You bastard," she whispered. Then louder to her pilots, "Make them pay. For Danny." The remaining human fighters attacked with renewed fury. They flew impossible patterns, dodging acid and tentacles. They emptied their weapons into the Overmind. When they ran out of missiles, they used their guns. When their guns ran out, some rammed their fighters into the creature's eyes. On the Retribution, Jake Morrison made a hard choice. "Lisa, can we ram this thing and survive?" Lisa looked at him like he was crazy. "Captain, we'd die on impact." "Not if we jump at the last second. We accelerate to full speed, aim for its mouth, and jump away 1 second before impact. The kinetic energy alone might hurt it. That's insane, that's human." Lisa smiled, setting course. "All hands prepare for ramming speed." The Retribution turned toward the Overmind. Its engines went to maximum power. The ship accelerated faster than it was designed to go. The hull shook. Alarm screamed. The Overmind saw the ship coming. It opened its mouth, ready to eat the human vessel. But Jake had counted on that. "Distance?" Jake asked. 1,000 miles and closing fast, Lisa said. 500 miles. 200. 150. Jump. The Retribution vanished 1 second before impact, but its momentum didn't. The kinetic energy hit the Overmind's mouth like an invisible fist. Teeth the size of buildings shattered. The creature's head snapped back. The Retribution appeared behind the Overmind, smoking and damaged but alive. "It worked," Lisa shouted. Other captains saw what Jake had done. 3 more ships tried the same move. 2 succeeded. 1 mistimed the jump and died on impact. But the damage was adding up. The Overmind was hurt. 15 minutes had passed. Captain Grace Taylor's voice came over the radio. 5 more minutes. "The Singularity weapon is almost ready." Frank Rodriguez checked his fleet. 41 ships destroyed. Almost 10,000 dead. But they had held. "All ships, final push." "Everything you have." The humans attacked with their last strength. Ships that were out of ammunition rammed the Overmind. Crews set their reactors to overload and flew into its mouth. Engineers redirected all power to weapons, even life support. Captain Sam Peters of the destroyer Lightning had lost half his ship. His bridge was open to space. Only emergency shields kept the air in, but his gun still worked. "If we're going to die, we die fighting. For Earth. For humanity. For the Corthani." His crew, what was left of them, echoed his cry. They fired until their guns melted. They fought until their ship broke apart. Sam Peters died standing at his post, still giving orders. The Overmind had never experienced this. It had consumed races that begged for mercy. It had eaten civilizations that ran in fear. But these humans didn't run. They didn't beg. They just fought and died and kept fighting. For the first time in its ancient life, the Overmind felt something it didn't understand. Was it fear? It didn't know, but it wanted these humans gone. It gathered its psychic power for one massive attack. Every human in the fleet would die from their brains exploding. It had done this before to weaker races. The attack built up, ready to release. But then Captain Eric Johnson on the psychic warfare ship Mind Shield activated his secret weapon. Not today, monster. The Mind Shield had been built for this. It projected a psychic barrier around the human fleet. When the Overmind's attack hit, it bounced back. The creature's own psychic scream hit itself. The Overmind writhed in pain. Its tentacles spasmed. Its eyes rolled back. It was stunned, confused. It had hurt itself with its own weapon. Now, Grace Taylor shouted. Singularity weapon ready, firing. The Judgment Day's main weapon activated. A black hole the size of a baseball appeared in space. It lasted only 3 seconds, but those 3 seconds were enough. The micro black hole punched through the Overmind's body, leaving a hole 50 miles wide. The creature screamed again, but this time it was different. This was a death scream. Purple blood poured from the wound. Its tentacles went limp. Its eyes started to close, but it wasn't dead yet. It tried to escape, to jump away, but Jake Morrison had one more surprise. All ships with tractor beams, lock onto that thing. Don't let it run. 20 human ships activated their tractor beams. They held the dying Overmind in place. It struggled, but it was weak now. Fire everything, Frank ordered. Kill it now while we can. Every human weapon that still worked fired at once. Missiles, lasers, railguns, even small arms fire from crews in spacesuits. They poured death into the wounded monster. The Overmind was dying, but it wasn't dead. Its massive body floated in space, leaking purple blood that froze into crystals. The hole the singularity weapon had made was huge, but the creature was already trying to heal. Flesh grew across the wound like cancer spreading in fast motion. Admiral Frank Rodriguez knew they had minutes, maybe less. Captain Taylor, can you fire again? Grace Taylor's face was pale on the screen. Negative, Admiral. The weapon burned out. We need 3 hours to repair it. They didn't have 3 hours. The Overmind's remaining bioships, 2,000 of them, were rushing to protect their master. They formed a wall of flesh between the human fleet and the dying giant. We have to get through them, Jake Morrison said. If that thing heals, we're finished. Frank made a decision that would haunt him forever. All civilian ships fall back. Military vessels, prepare for close combat. We're going in. The human fleet split. The ships that had been converted from civilian use, the mining ships and cargo haulers with guns bolted on, pulled back. The real warships, what was left of them, moved forward. 130 human warships faced 2,000 bioships. The odds were impossible, but humans had been doing the impossible since they learned to use fire. Captain Amy Watson laughed over the radio. It was not a happy laugh. Well, boys and girls, this is what we trained for. Let's show these monsters how humans die. The two fleets met in a collision of metal and flesh. Ships rammed into each other. Guns fired at point-blank range. It wasn't a battle anymore. It was a bar fight in space, brutal and ugly. The battlecruiser Vengeance plowed through 3 bioships, its armored prow crushing them, but tentacles wrapped around its engines. Amy Watson ordered all power to forward guns and kept firing even as her ship was torn apart. For humanity, she shouted as the bridge exploded around her. Captain Kate Murphy and her fighters flew through the chaos. They had no more missiles, so they used their fighters as weapons. They flew into the bioships' mouths and ejected at the last second. Some made it to escape pods. Most didn't. Kate's fighter was the last one left. She had 1 missile, damaged and probably useless, but she flew straight at the Overmind's largest remaining eye. This is for Danny, you bastard. She fired the missile and pulled up hard. The missile hit and failed to explode, but the impact was enough. The eye ruptured, spraying blood into space. Kate's fighter was caught in the spray. The acid blood ate through her cockpit. She had 5 seconds to think of her daughter back on Earth before she died. On the science ship Darwin, Paul Harrison watched his nanites spread through the biofleet. But they were adapting. The Overmind was learning even as it died. Admiral, the nanites are becoming less effective. The bioships are developing immunity. Then we use regular weapons, Frank said. Old-fashioned human violence. The warrior moved forward, all guns blazing. Frank stood on his bridge as it shook from impacts. Panels exploded. Crew members died at their posts but were replaced immediately by others. Everyone knew this was the end. They would win or die here. Commander Eric Johnson's psychic warfare ship was surrounded. Bioships pressed against it from all sides, crushing the hull. Eric smiled and turned to his psychic warfare team. "Gentlemen, ladies, it's been an honor. Let's give them one last headache." They released all their psychic energy at once, not as a shield but as a weapon. The psychic blast killed every bioship within a mile. It also killed Eric and his entire crew. Their brains burned out from the effort. But they died smiling, knowing they had hurt the enemy one last time. The Overmind watched its children die. It had created them from its own flesh over thousands of years. Each death hurt it. These humans were not just killing its body. They were killing its soul. It tried to understand them. Every other race had fought to survive. These humans fought to kill. They didn't care if they died as long as their enemy died too. It was insane. It was impossible. It was terrifying. Jake Morrison's ship, the Retribution, had lost all weapons. Half the crew was dead. But the engines still worked. Jake looked at Lisa Chen. She had blood running down her face from a head wound, but she stood straight. "One more ram?" he asked. "One more," she agreed. The Retribution accelerated again, aiming for the wound in the Overmind's body. This time they wouldn't jump away. This time they would hit. But as they flew toward certain death, something unexpected happened. Ships appeared from hyperspace. Not human ships. Korthani ships. Hundreds of them. Ambassador Velthar's voice came over the radio. "Human fleet, this is the Korthani. We are not warriors, but we will not let you die alone. Our ships have no weapons, but they have engines. We will ram with you." The Korthani ships were not built for war. They were transport ships, agricultural vessels, science ships, but they accelerated toward the biofleet, ready to die alongside the humans who had come to save them. "No," Jake shouted. "Stay back. You'll be slaughtered." "Captain Morrison," Velthar replied. "You taught us something today. Sometimes fighting is the only choice. We choose to fight." The Korthani ships hit the biofleet from behind. They had no weapons, but their hulls were strong. They rammed into bioships, destroying themselves but taking enemies with them. It was clumsy, amateur, and brave beyond words. The distraction was enough. The biofleet turned to face the new threat. In that moment of confusion, the human warships broke through. 50 human ships reached the Overmind's wounded body. "All ships concentrate fire on the wound," Frank ordered. "Don't let it heal." Weapons poured into the hole. Explosions ripped through the Overmind's internal organs. It thrashed in agony, its tentacles whipping through space. One tentacle hit the destroyer Hope, cutting it in half. Another grabbed the cruiser Victory and squeezed until it exploded. But the humans kept firing. They emptied everything they had into the creature. On the Retribution, Jake ordered something desperate. "Lisa, can we detonate our spare reactor?" "Captain, that would destroy us too." "I know. But it might be enough to finish this thing." Lisa looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Setting reactor to overload. We have 2 minutes." Jake opened a channel to the crew. "All hands, this is the captain. Abandon ship. Get to the escape pods." That's an order. Some of the crew ran for the pods, but many stayed at their posts. Chief Bob Jackson spoke for them all. "Captain, we're staying. This is our fight too." Jake wanted to argue, but there was no time. The reactor countdown hit 1 minute. The Overmind sensed what was happening. It tried to push the Retribution away with its tentacles, but other human ships shot the tentacles off. It tried to close the wound, but the weapons fire kept it open. 30 seconds, Lisa said. Jake took her hand. "It's been an honor, Commander." "The honor was mine, Captain." The Overmind made one last desperate move. It sent a psychic message, not of attack, but of pleading. It begged for mercy. It promised to leave, to never return. It offered knowledge, technology, anything. Jake heard the message in his mind. For 1 second he hesitated. Then he thought of the billions of Korthani this thing had killed. He thought of the races it had consumed. He thought of the human crews who had died today. "No mercy," he said. The reactor exploded. The Retribution vanished in a ball of nuclear fire. The explosion expanded into the Overmind's wound. It burned through organs that had lived for 10,000 years. It vaporized the creature's brain clusters. It turned the monster's insides into ash. The Overmind's death scream was heard across the galaxy. Every psychic being felt it. On 100 worlds, sensitives woke from nightmares. The scream went on for 30 seconds that felt like hours. Then silence. The Overmind was dead. Its moon-sized body began to break apart. Without its psychic control, the remaining bioships stopped moving. They floated dead in space, their shared mind gone. Admiral Frank Rodriguez stood on his damaged bridge looking at what remained of his fleet. 68 human ships survived from the original 200. Over 20,000 humans had died. But they had won. All surviving ships report, he ordered. The responses came in slowly. Each ship damaged, each crew reduced, but alive. They had faced a nightmare and killed it. Admiral, someone called. I'm detecting life signs from escape pods. The Retribution's crew, some of them made it out. Rescue them all, Frank said. Every pod, every survivor. Human and Corthani both. On Corthani Prime, the survivors in the bunkers watched their screens in disbelief. The Devourers were dead. All of them. The humans had done the impossible. Velthar's daughter looked up at him. Father, we're safe? Yes, child. We're safe. The humans saved us, but so many died. Yes, but that's what heroes do. They die so others can live. The rescue operations took 12 hours. Escape pods were collected. Wounded were treated. The dead were counted. When it was done, Frank Rodriguez received a message from the Galactic Council. The council speaker, a tall, thin alien named Prex, appeared on the screen. Admiral Rodriguez, the council demands an explanation. You acted without authorization. You started a war without permission. Frank was tired. He was covered in blood, some his crew's. He had watched thousands die, and this politician wanted to lecture him. We didn't start a war, Frank said. We ended one. The Corthani asked for help. You ignored them. We didn't. You had no right. We had every right. They were dying. We could help. So we helped. 3 weeks had passed since the battle above Corthani Prime. The human fleet, what remained of it, floated in orbit while repairs were made. Down on the planet, Corthani and humans worked side by side to rebuild what the Devourers had destroyed. Jake Morrison stood in a field of blue grass, watching Corthani children play. He had survived the reactor explosion barely. Lisa Chen had pushed him into an escape pod at the last second. She hadn't made it out. Her name was now on the list of heroes who gave everything. A small Corthani child walked up to him. It was Melvar, Ambassador Velthar's daughter. She held a flower in her 3-fingered hand, offering it to him. For you, Captain Morrison. My teacher says humans like flowers. Jake took the flower carefully. It was purple with silver edges. Thank you, Melvar. It's beautiful. Captain, why did you save us? My father says humans and Corthani are not family. We are not even the same species. Why did your people die for us? Jake sat down in the grass so he was at the child's eye level. Do you know what makes humans different from most species? The child shook her head. We come from a world that tries to kill us every day. Storms, earthquakes, wild animals, diseases. Everything on Earth is dangerous. So humans learned something important. We learned that we are stronger together. We learned to protect each other, even strangers, because one day we might need protection too. But you didn't know if we would ever help you back. That doesn't matter. When someone needs help, you help. That's what makes us human. Melvar thought about this. Then she hugged Jake, her small arms barely reaching around him. Thank you for being human. In the Corthani capital, Admiral Frank Rodriguez sat in a meeting with the Corthani Council. Ambassador Velthar led the discussion. Admiral, we can never repay what humanity has done. 22,000 humans died to save us. How can we possibly thank you? Frank leaned back in his chair. He looked tired. He had aged years in weeks. You want to thank us? Then learn from this. Build weapons. Train warriors. Never be helpless again. But we are a peaceful species. We don't know how to fight. You learned 3 weeks ago. Your ships rammed the biofleet to help us. That took courage. Build on that courage. The galaxy is dangerous. The Galactic Council won't always protect you. Sometimes you have to protect yourself. Velthar nodded slowly. Will humanity teach us? Yes, we'll help you build a defense fleet. We'll train your people. We'll make sure this never happens again. And in return, Frank smiled for the first time in weeks. In return, you be our friends.
Real friends.
The kind who stand by each other no matter what. On Terra Station, a memorial service was being held. The families of the fallen gathered in the Great Hall. 22,000 names were carved into a wall of black stone. Each name represented someone who had chosen to fight for strangers. Captain Amy Watson's daughter, a girl of 16, stood before the wall. She touched her mother's name. Hi, Mom, they say you died a hero. They say you saved billions of people. I just wish you had saved yourself too. An old man stood next to her. It was Amy's father. Your mother knew what she was doing. She knew the cost, and she paid it willingly because that's who she was. I miss her. So do I, but look around. All these people, all these families, they're alive because of her, because of all of them. That's their legacy. Dr. Paul Harrison stood in his laboratory, studying the remains of a bioship. Even dead, the organic technology was fascinating. It could teach humanity so much about biological engineering. His assistant, a young woman named Jennifer Clark, entered the lab. Doctor, the council wants to know if we can use this technology. Paul looked at the dead flesh. We could, but should we? This technology consumed entire civilizations. It's evil. Technology isn't evil, Doctor. It's how you use it. Paul thought about that. She was right. The nanites he had created to kill could also be used to heal. The bioship technology could be used for medicine, for growing food, for many good things. We'll study it, he decided. But carefully. We won't become what we fought. In space, Captain Grace Taylor supervised the salvage of the Overmind's corpse. The creature's body contained materials and knowledge from 1,000 consumed civilizations. It was a treasure trove and a graveyard combined. Captain, her sensor operator called. I'm detecting something. There are survivors in the bioships. Grace was shocked. Survivors? How? Not devourers, Captain. Other species. The bioships had prisoners. Beings that were being slowly digested. Some are still alive. Get them out. All of them now. The rescue operation found 300 survivors from various species. Some had been prisoners for years, kept barely alive as the devourers slowly fed on them. They were scarred, traumatized, but alive. One of them, a creature that looked like a walking plant, spoke to Grace. You killed them. You actually killed the devourers. We thought it was impossible. Nothing's impossible, Grace said. It just takes the right amount of firepower and the will to use it. Back on Earth, the news of the victory had spread. Cities celebrated. The names of the fallen were read on every news channel. Children learned about the battle in school. The message was clear. Humanity would stand for the innocent. Always. The President of Earth, a woman named Carol Davis, addressed the United Earth Parliament. 3 weeks ago, we made a choice. We chose to risk everything to save the Korthani. Many questioned that choice. They said it wasn't our fight. They were wrong. She paused, looking at the assembled representatives. Today we have 17 requests for defensive alliances. Species across the galaxy want our protection. They saw what we did and they want to be our friends. But Madam President, one representative said, we lost so much. Can we afford to be the galaxy's protectors? Can we afford not to be? The devourers existed because no one stood against them. The strong preyed on the weak because the weak had no champions. That changes now. Humanity will be the shield for those who need it. The vote was unanimous. The Terran Protection Accord was created. Any species facing extinction could call for human aid, and humanity would answer. On the Galactic Council station, Prek stood before the assembled races. The footage of the battle played on screens around the chamber. The brutal efficiency of the human fleet, their willingness to die, their absolute destruction of the devourers. The humans acted without our permission, Prek said. They started a war that could have spread across the galaxy. And they won, said the representative from the Altarian Empire. They did what we couldn't or wouldn't. They're dangerous. Yes, agreed the Korthani representative, a young Velthar who had been given the position. They are dangerous. To those who threaten the innocent. But to friends, they are protectors. The Korthani formally request that humanity be given a permanent seat on the Security Council. The request shocked everyone. The Security Council was for the most powerful races only. Humanity was young, only in space for 200 years. They're not ready, Prex argued. They destroyed the Devourers, Velthar said simply. Something none of you could do. They are more than ready. The vote was close, but humanity got its seat. The Deathworlders were now officially recognized as a major power. Back on Korthani Prime, Jake Morrison prepared to leave. The Retribution was being rebuilt, and he would captain it again. But first, he had one more duty. He stood in a field where 22,000 markers had been placed. Each one represented a human who had died in the battle. The Korthani had given this land to humanity forever, a place to remember their sacrifice. Velthar stood beside him. Captain, I've been thinking about what you said. About humans protecting each other. But you didn't know us. We weren't part of your group. Jake looked at the markers. That's where you're wrong, Ambassador. The moment you asked for help, you became part of our group. That's what humans do. We expand our definition of us to include anyone who needs us. Even at this cost? Especially at this cost. Those 22,000 people didn't die for nothing. They died so billions could live. They died so children like your daughter could grow up free. That's a good trade. A young human officer approached. Captain, the ship is ready. Jake nodded. He turned to Velthar one last time. Take care of your people, Ambassador. Build those defenses. Train those warriors. The galaxy is still dangerous. What about humanity? What will you do now? Jake smiled. What we've always done. We'll explore. We'll build. We'll make friends. And when someone cries for help, we'll answer. That's who we are. The human fleet rebuilt and reinforced left Corthani space, but they left behind more than just markers for the dead. They left behind hope. They left behind the knowledge that someone in the galaxy would stand for the weak. On 100 worlds, species that had lived in fear of the Devourers celebrated. On 1,000 more, aggressive races reconsidered their plans for conquest. The message was clear. Humanity was watching. In the depths of space, in places where evil things planned evil deeds, they now had to ask themselves a question. If they attacked the innocent, would the Deathworlder fleet come? Would the humans answer the call? The answer, everyone now knew, was yes. Years later, children across the galaxy would learn about the Battle of Corthani Prime. They would learn about Captain Jake Morrison and Admiral Frank Rodriguez. About Amy Watson and Danny White and Lisa Chen and all the others who died as heroes.